All right, hello and welcome to MMT TV, and I am here today with Srinivas Rao, and he is the host and co-founder of Blogcast FM, a podcast and a website or a show that has more than 250,000 downloads per month, and he's building a media empire. So, Srini, why has your popularity grown so much over the past 3 years?
Well, first, let me say that popularity is relative. I think when you compare me to some of the people I'm interviewed, I'm somewhat unknown. Like I've had people like Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, and Tim Ferriss, pretty much household names. You say the name Srinivas Rao, and people are like, "Who the hell is that guy?" But I think a large part of it has been driven by a couple of things. One is that my focus is heavily on user experience and audience, really listener experience, because this was a fundamental shift for me in the early days of the show. I realized that it wasn't interviewing famous people that was going to make us well known. It was going to be providing really, really good content to the people who are willing to listen. And so one of the things that I think that we've been able to do that has been very effective is deliver really, really valuable information to people. I've had people tell me that like some of the interviews are better than paid products, and that, to me, I think that's a testament to our guests for sure, because they're very generous in how they share. Of course, there's another component of this that we can't neglect, is that I've interviewed 300 people. So there's sort of a domino effect and a snowball effect, because what happens is you hit critical mass, right? And I don't know if we ever really hit critical mass, because unlike a lot of people you might see, we didn't grow. We didn't start one day and a year later there are hundreds of thousands of people listening. This is our fourth year, and to be honest, the last year is the one in which we've seen sort of the hockey stick effect. And even then, it's been steady. I think this is going to be the year in which you see sort of, really not the masses per se, but a substantial audience, even more so than what you're talking about. And it's a combination of several things. I think we can't neglect the fact that I got in early when it came to this sort of podcasting craze that is going on right now. And I mean, you've probably noticed that everybody and their mother, all the sort of big names in social media are starting podcasts. And to me, this is a very good thing for us, because it just validates the medium even more. And we have a 3-year head start, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. The other thing I think that has made us popular is that we never limited ourselves to sort of the social media bloggers or the social media celebrities. I mean, if you look at sort of the archives of Blogcast FM, it's this just mishmash of the most weird and fascinating and brilliant bunch of people that you could ever put together. And I always jokingly say, I was like, I don't think anybody could put together the group of misfits that I could throw in one room to create a ruckus. I mean, it's and I love that, because I get to talk to some really, really brilliant people, but they all come from these sort of diverse backgrounds. I mean, I've had venture capital people, I've had people like Robert Greene, who's a best-selling author. I've had sort of the successful blogger / solo entrepreneur, sort of these really amazing best-selling authors. I mean, it's really just been such a diverse group of people. And a big part of the reason that I've always approached things that way is because, one, it allows us to not sort of get pigeonholed, even though people say choose a niche and go with it. It allows us to reach a very wide variety of people who are all doing interesting projects that are very relevant to our audience. And so because of that, the audience is also very diverse. It's interesting to hear that we have actors and actresses who listen to the show. I mean, that to me was one of the most eye-opening moments of my life. I said, why would an actor and actress listen to this show? And then I met one of them, and it finally clicked. I was like, okay, well, this makes sense, because even in Hollywood, they mainstream media has a lot of lessons to learn from what a lot of us are doing with social media, because even sort of the up and coming actors are all building platforms, or people who want to be actors. One of the best ways for them to get their work out in the world is to actually build a platform, and that opportunity is available to them before, like it never was. I mean, even talent agencies like United Art, I don't remember what it is, ICM, I think, has an entire division dedicated to scouting out talent on YouTube, which is a whole new world that we live in today. So I think that's been a big part of it. And of course, as we've grown, our reach has spread quite a bit. And of course, when you start hitting every corner of the web, you get connected more and more. And with each connection comes referrals, and with referrals come high-profile guests. Like if you looked at January, which to me is actually somewhat terrifying, we had this just steady stream of some of the most high-profile people online you could think of. And I looked at it and I thought, oh man, we're not going to be able to top that. And then I made the list for the next 6 months, and I thought, all right, good, this is good news. There's some even more interesting guests coming that we haven't had yet.
So what were some of those names?
For the last month, like Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, James Altucher, Chris Brogan. I think those are the main ones. I'm trying to think who else that we had that was in that bunch. So Seth and Chris were the really big ones. Actually, that was all of January because we started late on purpose. We didn't, we did this best of 2012, and because the end of the year or the beginning of the year started like in the middle of a week, we actually left out the entire first week. But yeah, so we, to start off like that, out of the gate with some really big names, it's awesome, but it's also a little nerve-wracking because then people are like, okay, this is, the standard you set, and it's like, okay, where do you go from here? After you've had Seth and Guy Kawasaki, it's kind of like, but on the flip side of that, as I mentioned, we've never sort of limited ourselves to that caliber of people, and we've also never limited ourselves to sort of the internet celebrity type. So that, I think, would be sort of a long answer to your question.
Okay, so what does your audience get out of having such a diverse audience?
Well,
diverse guest lists.
Well, here's the thing I think that provides, right, is and I can't take credit for this example, and I'll steal it from Robert Greene. He told me, we're talking about influences and how if you looked at all the great masters throughout history of their craft, they had influences from different fields. People bring in influences from literature, from music, from whatever it is that influence the way they think and the way they show up in the world. And the model that he kind of alluded to was biodiversity, right? The richer the environment is, the more species that you have in sort of this ecosystem, the richer the environment becomes. And so I think that having such a diversity of guests and diversity of perspectives really enables us to create this very enriching environment that never gets old or never gets boring. It's always fresh. And you get different perspectives because there are certain guests, for example, that don't resonate with everybody. I found out yesterday that one of our listeners, who was a huge fan of our show, didn't really think much of Seth Godin, and that was a shock to me. I thought, wow, really? I mean, who is out there that doesn't think much of Seth? And he actually didn't. I found out, sort of through the grapevine. But, and again, each guest is going to resonate with somebody differently. So I think that's really, in my mind, what the listeners get out of it.
All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to this channel for more interviews, and if you want to go further and be live on the interviews, you can go to mmt.tv/live to find out how. Like on Facebook and follow on Twitter to ask your questions, and be sure to get on the mailing list. Go to mmt.tv to get access to all the things that are not contained in these interviews. All the links are mentioned below, and until next time, break the rules, change the game, and be a rock star.